You wake up breathless, heart racing. A place, a face, a sensation clings to you like smoke. You try to explain it, but the words betray you. It was just a dream, they say, but it didn't feel like a dream. It felt like something real you're not supposed to remember. And that's the point. You've been told dreams are imaginary, random firings of a sleeping brain, echoes of your day, stitched together by nonsense. But deep down, something in you has always doubted that, because there are dreams that don't fade, dreams that follow you, dreams that feel more alive than the world you wake up to. And those dreams aren't dreams at all. What if every night, while your body rests, your consciousness travels, not in metaphor, but in function? What if you visit places you've been never seen because you've already lived there, in another version of reality? What if every time you dream, you step through a doorway into a timeline you forgot you were part of? This isn't fantasy, it's memory. And it begins with a question no one taught you to ask. Why do some dreams feel more real than waking life? Because the truth is this: not all dreams are symbols. Some are signals, transmissions, glimpses of parallel realities where your soul is experiencing a different path, a different decision, a different outcome. You call them dreams, because they arrive when you're most vulnerable, when the mind relaxes its grip and the veil thins, when the linear dissolves and the dimensional opens. But your conditioning kicks in the moment you wake. You dismiss what you just saw. You forget, not because it wasn't real, but because you were trained to forget anything that doesn't fit the script. And that script is breaking. This video isn't about interpretation. This is not where I decode your dreams. It's where I dismantle what you think dreams are. Because once you understand what's actually happening behind your eyelids, you'll realize you've never been asleep. You've been traveling. You've crossed into places where the rules of this world don't apply. You've felt emotions that weren't triggered here. You've met people who know you, and you can't explain why. You've seen events unfold before they happen. That's not coincidence. That's remembrance, bleeding through time. And tonight, when you sleep again, it won't be by accident. You'll feel it differently. You'll know. You'll pay attention not to the symbols, but to the sensation, the truth beneath the imagery, the thread connecting versions of you across frequencies. Because dreams are not the end of your awareness. They are the moment it begins. The inner cosmos. How dreams aren't teen to mind, but beyond it. You've been taught to believe your brain is the origin of everything you experience. That dreams are just the leftovers of thought, electric sparks in a skull, trying to make sense of nothing. But what if your brain isn't the source of the dream, only the receiver? Think of it like this. A radio doesn't create music. It tunes into frequencies that are already playing. Change the dial, and an entirely different station appears. Not because the music suddenly began, but because you accessed it. That's what your consciousness does during sleep. It shifts the dial. It tunes in to realities you're not aware of during waking life. The dream doesn't happen inside your head. It happens through it. Your body shuts down. Your senses go silent. The physical world dissolves. And yet, you begin to move, to feel, to see. Where is that happening? If the eyes are closed, if the body is still, if the brain is resting, then what part of you is walking through cities you've never visited, talking to people you've never met, remembering places that don't exist in this world? There's a reason the ancients never spoke of the mind as confined to the body. They saw it as a field, a current, something that exists through layers, not just in neurons, but in space itself. You are not just a being. You are a signal, a receiver, a transmitter, and every night, that signal detaches from the narrow bandwidth of physical life and enters the wider spectrum of the soul. That spectrum is vast. Your waking mind is like a flashlight. It shows you only what you pointed at. But the dreaming self, it's not a beam, it's a field. It doesn't look at reality. It moves through it. That's why dreams don't follow logic. They follow vibration. You don't walk in straight lines. You shift. You flow. One scene becomes another, without transition. Because where you are isn't a place. It's a layer. These layers aren't fantasies. They're real. They exist in frequencies beyond physical detection. And you touch them every night. Not because you're escaping the world, but because you're returning to a bigger one. Your brain is not imagining the dream. It's catching it. It's filtering an experience that is happening across time and space. And just like some radio signals come in clearer than others, some dreams hit you with clarity. Others fade, not because they weren't real, but because your signal wasn't strong enough to hold them. The more conscious you become of this truth, the stronger that signal gets. This is the turning point. Once you stop treating dreams as random, they stop behaving randomly. They respond, they sharpen, they open. Not because you forced them, but because you were finally ready to see the multiplicity of self. You're already living in multiple realities. You've lived this life thinking you are one person, one timeline, one set of memories, choices, paths. But that's only true from the narrow view of this moment. From the higher lens, the one your soul never stops seeing through. You are more than one life. You are a spectrum of versions, and dreams are the threads between them. Every time you choose, you split. Every time you turn left instead of right, speak instead of stay silent, leave instead of stay, reality fractures, not into fantasy, but into possibility. And those possibilities don't vanish. They unfold. Somewhere else, another version of you took the other path. Live the life you sometimes wonder about, the one that feels close, familiar, magnetic, as if it's happening behind a thin veil. That's not imagination. That's bleed through. And the dreams that hit you the hardest, the ones that feel like memories instead of stories, are echoes from those parallel timelines. You're not inventing them. You're remembering them. Because your consciousness is not confined to this singular track. It's entangled across many. You've been trained to forget that. But your soul never did. That's why some dreams haunt you. Why they carry emotions deeper than your waking life. You're feeling the residue of another version of you. A version still living, still moving, still becoming something. Not in the future, but in another now. Dreams are not fiction. They are visits. And sometimes, you're the one being observed. There are moments when another version of you is dreaming this life, seeing you, feeling you, questioning how they might have become this person. You are both the dreamer and the dream. The loop is constant. The exchange is subtle. But it's real. This is the multiplicity of self, not a theory, not a belief, but a structure, a design. One the ancient mystics spoke of, the quantum physicists now whisper about, and your own soul has been hinting at since you were a child. You felt it, in déjà vu, in timelines that feel out of place, in knowing things you were never taught. You've met people for the first time and recognized them instantly. You've walked into rooms and felt like you'd been there before. Not past lives, parallel lives. You are not moving through a straight path. You are weaving through a field of choices, and dreams are your only clue that something more is unfolding beyond what your eyes can hold. Once you realize that, everything shifts. You begin to honor your dreams, not as stories, but as coordinates. Not as noise, but as navigation. Because every dream is a doorway, and on the other side is another you. You, dream architecture, how locations, people, and loops encode truth. You've returned to the same city in dreams more times than you can count. A city that doesn't exist on any map, but feels like home. The streets change, the sky shifts, but the feeling remains. You know the turns before you take them. You've never been there in this life, but your soul walks it like it's familiar ground. That's not imagination. That's architecture. Your dreams are not random. They are structured, designed, recurring settings, looping events, the same strangers wearing different faces. All of it holds weight, because what you call a dream isn't a hallucination. It's an echo of memory, a reflection of a place your consciousness has been, or still is. There are places you visit again and again. Rooms, corridors, landscapes, buildings that don't make sense in waking life, but carry an emotional signature so specific, so vivid, it lingers long after you open your eyes. These are anchor points. Locations that exist in other layers of reality. Environments tied to alternate timelines of yourself. Versions of you that walk through those worlds daily. When your consciousness loosens from the waking world, it drifts naturally to the frequencies it's most entangled with. That's why you keep returning. Not because the dream repeats, but because you're still connected to that place. And then there are the people, the ones you've never met, yet feel like you've always known. They speak without mouths. You understand without words. Their names vanish on waking, but their presence stings your chest. These aren't fragments of your psyche. These are figures of resonance, beings your soul knows from other paths. Some are you in another form. Others are companions from lives not lived here. Some are warnings. Some are guides. Some are unfinished conversations from other worlds bleeding into this one through sleep. Dream loops are the next clue. The hallway you always run through. The chase you can't escape. The flight that never lifts. They're not just nightmares. They're messages trapped in repetition. Timelines where you're stuck. Choices not resolved. Lessons not integrated. They will repeat until you listen, not solve. Dreams don't ask for answers. They ask for presence. This is the architecture of the unseen world. And like any architecture, it can be studied, walked, and eventually remembered. The deeper you go, the more you begin to realize your dream world is not fictional. It's consistent, structured, familiar. And if it's familiar, then maybe, just maybe, it's home. Time isn't linear. There, it collapses. You wake up and realize a lifetime passed inside a single night. Not a moment, not a glimpse, a full life. A house you built, a child you raised, a death you witnessed. And when your eyes open, you're not sure where you are. Because your body says morning, but your soul says return. That wasn't just a dream. That was time collapsing. In this realm we call waking life, time is a rigid river, a linear march, 1 second after the next. One event followed by consequence. Aligned, we're told not to question. But in dreams, that law dissolves. Time doesn't flow. It folds. It wraps around memory. It bends itself through emotion. 10 minutes in this world can stretch into years in that one. And no one told you why. No one prepared you for the weight of having lived and lost entire timelines. While your body simply rested. That's because dreams don't operate by seconds. They operate by symbolic density. The more emotionally charged a moment, the more space it occupies in the dream. One glance can hold an entire history. One word can echo through past and future. Time is not measured there. It is experienced, compressed, expanded, collapsed, This is why the waking mind struggles to remember. You're trying to extract a nonlinear truth through a linear filter. You wake up with the residue of something vast, a lifetime you can't trace, a knowing without context, and you're expected to go about your day as if nothing happened, but something did. A version of you moved. A part of you aged. Another self took a step that changed everything on a layer you can't name but can feel. Shamans knew this. They called it time walking. They spoke of collapsing timelines in ritual space, in dream state, in altered awareness. They didn't measure life by clocks but by vision, and they trained themselves to hold presence in both realms, waking and dreaming, without flinching. You felt it. Déjà vu is a symptom of collapsed time. When you arrive somewhere and remember it not from this life, but from the dream you dismissed last week. When you meet someone and already know how the conversation ends. These aren't tricks of the brain. They're fragments of nonlinear moments bleeding through. They are confirmations that what happens in dream time touches waking time. And in the space between waking and sleep, those few seconds where you're not fully here, no, that's the slipstream, the corridor between dimensions. If you stay still, completely still, and listen in that space, you might hear your other lives brushing past you, like the rustle of wind through a hidden passage. But no one taught you how to listen. No one told you your dreams were this powerful. That time, once untethered, reveals the true shape of your being. That you're not just a body living through one line of events. You are a consciousness shifting through constellations of choice, perception, and pattern. And dreams are not escape. They are reminders, not of fantasy, but of freedom. So when you wake up with a tear in your eye, for a family that doesn't exist here, or grief for a moment no one else remembers, or love for a stranger you've never met understand, you are feeling time collapsed. You are remembering beyond the body. You are touching the map of everything you are. And when that happens, don't dismiss it. Don't shrink it to fit into a calendar. Sit with it. Let it linger. Let it whisper. Because in that silence, the true shape of time begins to speak. Waking is amnesia. Why you forget everything. You wake up, and it's gone. The colors, the voices, the weight of something that felt more real than this room you're now sitting in. You try to recall it, but it slips through your fingers like water. It's not just forgetting. It's erasure, and it happens every morning, without exception. No matter how vivid the dream, how shaken you were, how alive it felt. Waking erases the path. But have you ever asked why? This isn't failure. This is design. You're not bad at remembering dreams. You've been conditioned and protected to forget. Because remembering everything would break the structure of this world. You are living in one version of yourself, with rules, gravity, and identity. But you are dreaming in dimensions where those rules don't exist, where yourself is fluid, where time folds, where you are not one thing, but many. And when you re-enter this body, this life, this identity, a veil is lowered. A gentle forgetfulness sweeps across your consciousness, not as punishment, but as preservation. Because if you remembered all timelines at once, your mind would collapse under the weight of contradiction. You would question every choice, every emotion, every memory, unsure which version was truly yours. So waking is a ritual, a reset, a return to the mask we agreed to wear in this life. But not all is lost. There are ways to pierce the veil, and it begins not with trying harder, but with becoming quieter. When you first wake, before moving, before reaching for your phone, before speaking a word, there's a window, a fragile bridge between worlds. The mind is still soft, still floating, still echoing. In that moment, if you stay still and listen, the fragments rise. The images resurface, not in order, but in feeling. Not in logic, but in weight. If you write them down without interpretation, just as they arrive, you begin to teach your brain that these memories matter. And when the brain realizes you're paying attention, it stops discarding them. Your recall sharpens. Your dreams deepen. The bridge strengthens. Breath work before sleep changes everything. Not because of magic, but because of signal. When the breath slows, the nervous system releases. The gate opens wider, and the entry into the dream is not a fall, but a crossing. You enter aware, and what begins in awareness often ends in remembrance. Rituals before sleep anchor your intent. A question asked in stillness echoes through the dream. A mantra repeated becomes a key. You're not just drifting into unconsciousness. You're stepping into a domain you've long ignored, and the more you treat it as sacred, the more it responds in kind. The veil doesn't vanish in one night, it thins. Gradually, as your relationship with the unseen becomes less transactional and more reverent. And when the veil thins, the dreams return sharper, the symbols brighter, the messages louder. You no longer wake up empty. You wake up carrying, and what you carry shapes your day, your choices, your energy. You begin to realize that forgetting was never weakness. It was a temporary agreement, and remembering is not about control, it's about readiness. So if you've forgotten your dreams lately, forgive yourself. But also listen. Because forgetting is natural, but ignoring the call to remember, that's a choice. Lucid dreaming was never the goal. Conscious integration is. You've been told that lucid dreaming is the summit, that gaining control inside a dream is proof of evolution. But the moment you realize you're dreaming, you win. But that's only the beginning. Lucidity without purpose is just entertainment. Awareness without integration is only a spark that never becomes fire. Lucid dreaming gives you power. Yes, the ability to shape environments, summon people, fly, rewrite the laws of space and gravity. But what if all of that is distraction? What if the true value of dreaming was never about what you can control, but about what you can receive? The dream is not a toy, it's a transmission. And every symbol that appears, every place you visit, every encounter that rattles your chest, they are not scenes to manipulate. They are messages. Your soul is speaking to you in the language of imagery, sensation, and energy. And if all you do is reshape the landscape, you miss what the landscape was trying to tell you. Integration begins when you stop trying to change the dream and start listening to it. When you treat the field not as a playground, but as a sacred mirror. A mirror that shows not your reflection, but your frequency. Your fears, your wounds, your buried choices, your forgotten strength. To integrate a dream is to let it walk with you while awake. It's when a symbol won't leave your mind. When a sentence spoken by a stranger in the dream keeps ringing in your thoughts all day. When a color, a tone, a gesture keeps echoing. That's not coincidence. That's the dream unfolding in layers. That's how the message travels through dimensions. The dream doesn't end when you wake. It continues subtly, quietly, inside your reactions, your decisions, your emotions. Integration is not remembering what happened. It's allowing what happened to shape what you are becoming. You begin to see life differently. A conversation triggers the same sensation you felt in the dream. A moment repeats, and you recognize it as the same pattern from the night before. You no longer separate sleep from waking. You start living as one fluid, being aware in both. That's when the veil thins naturally. You don't chase lucidity anymore. It arrives. You don't force control. You invite collaboration, and the dream begins to respond to your integrity, not your will. Emotions are the true compass. Not the scenery, not the colors. Emotions carry the signal. If you felt dread in a bright setting, there's a reason. If you felt peace in a shadowed place, that matters. Dreams are encoded fields, and frequency is the key. Integration means learning to feel the code instead of trying to rewrite it. You'll know you're integrating when your waking self changes without trying. When the dream teaches you something about your current relationships. When it softens your reactions. When it opens your awareness to what you are blind to. Lucid dreaming is not a finish line. It's a doorway. But the real work, the sacred work, begins when you cross it. Sit down in the dream and listen. That's the moment your two selves begin to merge. And from that union, clarity is born. The parallel self is watching you too. You think you're the one dreaming? That your mind is projecting stories while your body sleeps. But what if, in another layer of reality, you are the dream? What if your waking life is being observed right now by another version of you? A self that exists beyond this timeline, watching through the veil, wondering how it feels to be this exact version in this exact moment. You are taught to believe your dreams are one-directional. You go there, you explore, you come back. But what if the movement isn't linear? What if, as you walk through your dreams, someone else, someone made of the same soul but shaped by different choices, is doing the same from the other side? This is not imagination. This is resonance. In certain dreams, you felt it, that eerie sensation of being watched. Not in fear, but in familiarity, as if someone else in the dream was more than a character, as if they knew you. Not the way strangers know faces, but the way mirrors know reflections. They look at you and you feel it, not judgment, not confusion, but recognition. That figure might have been quiet, or they may have followed you, stood beside you, spoken without words. Sometimes they felt like guides, other times like shadows. But what if they weren't other? What if they were you? In the architecture of parallel realities, every version of you is woven into the same field of consciousness. You are not separate. You are layered. When one version sleeps, another awakens. When one meditates, another dreams, and the veil between them is thinnest in moments of stillness, surrender, or emotional intensity. There are moments in waking life when you feel it, too. A sudden shift, like something just passed through you. A thought you didn't choose, a memory that doesn't belong to this lifetime, a deep sadness or joy with no clear origin. That's not random. That's an echo, a residue from the overlapping signal of another self whose decisions are vibrating through yours. Sometimes, your dreams aren't dreams at all. They're viewings, glimpses of other versions of your life, not chosen by chance, but by resonance. You connect with the realities that mirror your emotional frequency. If you're full of doubt, you dream into the version of you who gave in. If you're burning with courage, you step into the path where you already conquered. And if you're ready to evolve, you might meet the version of you who's already free. Not to admire, but to integrate. This is not metaphor. This is mechanics. You are being seen, even now, watched not by a stranger, not by a deity, but by a part of yourself who chose a different path. That self sees your strength, your hesitation, your silent questions, and in the dream, they send signals, subtle cues, symbols, interactions designed not to impress you, but to awaken you. The veil between these selves isn't physical, it's perceptual. And when you begin to accept that you're not alone inside your own soul, the mirror stops being a wall. It becomes a door. The dream is not just your escape. It is your witness. And sometimes it's watching you back. The real reason certain dreams haunt you for years. There are dreams you forget within minutes. Others vanish before you're even fully awake. But then, they're the ones that stay. The ones that live beneath your skin. The ones you can't explain, but can't unfeel. Dreams that visited you once and never left, or returned again and again, shifting slightly each time, like a message changing shape until you're finally ready to hear it. These are not ordinary dreams. They are contracts, soul-level transmissions encoded with a frequency so precise, so personal, that no amount of time or distraction can dissolve them. They are not asking to be interpreted. They are asking to be fulfilled. You wake from them, shaken, sometimes in tears, sometimes in awe, sometimes with a sensation that something irreversible just happened. And it did. Not in this physical world, but in the web of realities your consciousness belongs to. They're echoes of timelines your soul is still in dialogue with. They are unfinished agreements from lives you may never consciously recall, but whose weight you still carry. You were not shown these dreams for entertainment. You were shown them to correct something, to heal something, to remember something. And that's why they return. That's why they haunt. That's why, years later, you still see that one person's face, that one hallway, that one sound, that one moment frozen in dream time. Sometimes these dreams are warnings, not of the future, but of paths you've taken before, and other threads of existence. They're not telling you what will happen. They're reminding you of what already did, somewhere, and urging you not to repeat it. Other times, they're visions of a potential you've been avoiding, a path where you stepped into your power, your voice, your truth, and your soul aches to merge with that version again. And then there are the dreams that carry people you've never met in this life, but when they appear, you know them more deeply than your own reflection. Those are not strangers. They are anchors. They represent pieces of your essence you've abandoned or buried. They come back in dreams to reintroduce you to yourself. That's why the logic of these dreams doesn't matter. The sequence, the scenery, the language, it's all code. What matters is the feeling, what it unlocked in you, what it triggered, what it left behind. The reason these dreams haunt you is because you haven't acted on them. You haven't integrated what they were trying to show you. You left them in the realm of mystery when they were begging to become a message. They're not looping to confuse you. They're looping because you've been circling a lesson, a decision, a truth, and not stepping through it. The haunting is not punishment. It's invitation. Because once you respond, truly respond, with attention, presence, transformation, the dream changes, or it stops. Not because it's over, but because it delivered what it came to give. So ask yourself now, what dream has followed you for years? What have you done with it? And what will you do now? Knowing it was never just a dream. It was a mirror, and you're the one who has to choose when to stop looking and start remembering. You're not dreaming, you're remembering. You think you're dreaming when you sleep. But what if you're remembering? Not like a flashback, not like déjà vu, but a cellular remembrance of who you be, always been beyond this current identity, beyond this version of your name, your story, your body. Because when everything goes quiet, when your eyes close, when the world fades, what rises is not fantasy, it's memory. Not memory from this lifetime, but from the field beneath it. The foundation, the original self, the one who's been watching through every mask you've worn, through every timeline you've entered, through every lesson you've delayed. When the body rests, the soul doesn't sleep. It returns, not to escape, to remember. To remember. This is why dreams feel like home and mystery at the same time. Why a place you've never seen can fill you with unbearable nostalgia. Why a person you've never met can look at you and your chest tightens, as if you've found someone you lost long ago. These are not accidents of the imagination. They are leakages from the truth that you've been more than this version, in more than this life, and your soul is tired of pretending otherwise. You are not imagining other worlds. You are brushing up against the memory of your wholeness. You are remembering that time is not straight, that life is not singular, that your existence is not limited to the role you're playing right now. And your dreams, especially the ones that leave you breathless, are the remnants of access, reminders that you're not waking up from sleep. You're waking up from amnesia. The forgetfulness isn't failure. It was agreement. You came into this body under the veil because this version of your growth required focus. It required friction. It required the illusion of separation so that you could find yourself through your own effort. But the veil is not permanent. It lifts when you're ready. It loosens when you start to ask better questions, when you stop looking for meaning in the symbols and start feeling the message beneath them. And now, the veil is thinning. That's why your dreams are louder. why your sleep is heavier, why the boundaries between here and there are breaking down. You are remembering in pieces, in moments, in fragments, too honest to ignore. That pain you carry that has no name, that longing you feel when the world gets quiet, that ache for something beyond language. All of it is memory. You've walked this before. You've seen this collapse and rise. You've known truths you're just now allowing to re-emerge. And once the remembering begins, nothing feels the same again. The world loses its false edge. Time softens. People seem less separate. Choices carry more weight, and silence becomes sacred. Because remembering doesn't give you power. It gives you responsibility. The responsibility to live as if you know what's really happening. The responsibility to stop playing small, to stop pretending you don't feel what you feel, to stop ignoring the dreams that keep knocking on your inner door. You're not dreaming. You're being invited back. And every night, that invitation waits. Not in the mind, not in the fantasy, but in the stillness, just beneath your name. You came here to remember. Now, the question is, will you? The dream never ends. Why reality is just another layer. You think you woke up. You think you left the dream behind when your eyes opened and the room came back into focus. But what if this right now is just another dream? A layer thicker in texture, slower in time, heavier in consequence, but still a dream. Still a projection. Still a field of perception filtered through belief. No one told you reality was designed to feel permanent. To feel solely to feel beyond question. And yet, how many times have you awoken from a dream convinced it was real, only to realize it wasn't? How many layers deep have you gone, not knowing you were still inside a construct, until something fractured and the truth bled through? That same feeling is happening now. Every time you pause, every time you catch yourself questioning what this life really is. That subtle flicker in your chest, that pulse of disorientation, that moment where everything feels just slightly too synchronized or too random. It's not anxiety, it's memory. A part of you still whispering, you've done this before, because you've this life, this waking realm, this identity. It's one of many. Not lesser, not fake, but incomplete. It's part of the totality, not the total. And the reason you feel the pull in your sleep is because the dream loosens the grip. It lets you remember, not just other lives, but the truth that all perception is a fluid dance of light, shadow, thought, and belief. This is not philosophy. This is structure. The same laws that govern your dreams. Symbolic communication, emotional gravity, non-linear movement are present here. You've just been trained to see them as coincidence, but patterns are speaking to you constantly. Symbols repeat in waking life, just like they do in sleep. The people you encounter carry the same archetypes. The choices you face echo the same tensions. And the landscape you call real shifts in response to your internal state, just like it does in dreams. The only difference is density. Dreams are fast, subtle, emotionally loud. Waking life is slow, stable, resistant to change. But both are mirrors. Both are fields of interaction. Both respond to the self. And when you begin to understand that this is also a dream your soul chose to enter for growth, remembrance, transformation, everything changes. You stop seeing obstacles as random. You stop reacting to pain as punishment. You start interpreting life itself as a map, a message, a meditation unfolding across time. There are moments when the veil thins, when synchronicity smashes logic, when someone says a sentence that hits you like thunder, when an event unfolds exactly as you saw it in your dream, not similar, exact. That's the fracture. That's the tear in the illusion. That's the moment you are reminded that the dream never ends. It only changes rules, and the ones who awaken are not those who escape the dream. They are the ones who learn to walk within it. Eyes open, presence activated, meaning felt in every breath. Because awakening doesn't mean leaving the dream. It means remembering that you are the one who's dreaming it now. You've tried to interpret dreams with words, with dictionaries, symbols, meanings, assigned by others. You wake up and ask, what does this mean? But meaning doesn't arrive in definitions. Not in the dream world, because dreams don't speak in language. They speak in frequency. And frequency isn't read. It's felt. You've had dreams where nothing was said, but everything was understood, where a glance carried more weight than entire books, where a color, a sound, a space, empty yet alive, said something your waking mind couldn't translate, but you're being instantly recognized. That's not confusion. That's clarity beyond language. The dream realm is pure communication, but not filtered through grammar. It bypasses logic. It transmits through emotion, symbolism, vibration. A building that feels heavy isn't just a setting, it's a field of memory. A stranger who makes you weep with one look isn't a random face. It's a fragment of yourself returned for integration. But you miss these truths if you try to label them. That's why dreams fade when you try to write them too fast. The pen can't hold frequency. The mind scrambles to reshape what was never linear into sentences, and the signal collapses. What was once a profound knowing becomes a confused paragraph. You don't lose the dream because it's weak. You lose it because you translated it too early. Frequency must be held, not dissected. And when you hold it, when you sit with the feeling of the dream without rushing to understand it, something unlocks. The message begins to unfold in your day. You find yourself feeling the same sensation around someone you meet. You hear a sentence in real life that carries the exact same tone. You encounter a situation that feels like the dream, even though it looks different. That's the language continuing. That's the dream bleeding through reality. Because the dream never ends at waking. It just shifts channels. Frequency is the common language across all time. It's how your future self sends guidance to the present. How the versions of you in other layers communicate warnings, reminders, lessons. Not through speech, but through resonance. You feel it in your gut. Endure, chest, in the way a moment suddenly vibrates differently than the rest of the day. And when you stop demanding meaning in words and begin feeling the meaning in stillness, your relationship with dreams changes. They become teachers, not puzzles. Mirrors, not riddles. And you no longer wake up wondering. You wake up carrying. This is the shift. From interpretation to vibration. From thought to presence. From guessing to feeling. So next time you wake from something powerful, don't ask what it meant. Sit. Breathe. Let the emotion return. Let it flood your nervous system without the need to label it. Let the signal integrate through your energy, not your intellect. Because the truth isn't in the symbol, it's in the frequency that created it. And that frequency was made just for you. You're being prepared while you sleep. Initiation through dreams. Not all dreams come to reveal. Some come to prepare. You think sleep is rest. That dreaming is passive. That the mind wanders while the body heals. But in truth, something sacred happens while you sleep. Not rest. Initiation. Quiet, exact, invisible training. Beneath the noise of your waking identity, you are being prepared, and you don't even know it. You wake up exhausted after a night of vivid dreaming. Not because you were disturbed, but because you were worked, tested, activated, shaped, while the conscious part of you stepped aside. A deeper intelligence, the one that holds your soul's timeline, stepped forward, not to play, not to escape, but to evolve. Initiation doesn't always happen in temples or retreats. Sometimes it happens in the middle of the night, in a city that doesn't exist, with symbols that make no sense. And yet, your spirit recognizes everything. The steps, the tasks, the silence, the presence of something watching, guiding, adjusting, a version of you beyond language, remembering how to move through fire without burning, through shadow without fear, through death without dying. In the dream, you are taught, but not in lectures, in sensation. Through experience, you climb, you fall, you speak languages you've never heard, but that flow from your mouth like water. You face trials, some terrifying, some ecstatic, and though your conscious mind resists, your deeper self never hesitates. That's not fiction. That's initiation. These dreams don't always linger when you wake. Sometimes you don't remember the dream, but you remember the change. You feel different, quieter, sharper. Something has shifted. You respond differently to people. You see patterns you couldn't see before. That's not coincidence. That's evidence. Your soul has always known that Earth is not just experience. It's training. Every lifetime, a classroom. Every challenge, a curriculum. And dreams are where the most sacred teachings happen, because only the most silent parts of you can receive them. Not everyone is being prepared. Only those who are ready to carry more. To embody more. To remember more. And if your dreams have become heavier lately, more intense, more emotional, more symbolic, it's because your initiation has begun. Quietly, precisely, relentlessly. And the training doesn't always feel beautiful. Sometimes it's messy, chaotic, waking up with your heart pounding, feeling the residue of something you can't explain. That's not confusion, that's contact. You've been led into the temple of your inner world and shown what needs to burn so you can rise. You didn't stumble into these dreams. You were brought. And if you feel it, if you know it, then act like it. Treat your sleep with reverence. Protect it. Purify it. Set intention before closing your eyes. Walk into the dream like it is a sacred ground, because it is. You're not being entertained. You're being entrusted. And the self that emerges from that training will never sleep the same way again. You didn't reach the end of this video. You crossed the edge of a layer. And what you're feeling right now, it isn't satisfaction. It isn't conclusion. It's the opening. A doorway you thought was behind you, slowly revealing itself in front of you, not with urgency, not with noise, but with a kind of stillness that feels like truth waiting. Because what you just heard wasn't information. It wasn't a theory. It was memory, speaking back to itself. The voice you followed wasn't mine. It was the part of you that already knew, but needed permission to surface. And now, it's here. Fully present. Watching. Listening. Ready? You came for dreams. For answers. For clarity. But what you received was reflection. And maybe you weren't expecting that. Maybe you thought this would be a list, a method, a map. But dreams don't work like that. Neither does awakening. There is no blueprint for remembering what you've never truly forgotten. So now you sit with a quiet feeling in your chest, a weight you can't name, a vibration that doesn't leave when the sound stops. That is the echo. That is what you carry out of this space and into the rest of your night. Not a task, not a technique, but a signal. One that will shift the way you walk, speak, listen. One that will gently disrupt the routine until your sleep is no longer unconscious, but sacred. You'll begin to treat your own silence differently, to honor your intuition not as guesswork, but as communication. You'll find yourself waking with fragments you no longer dismiss, with symbols you no longer explain away, with questions you don't try to solve, only feel. That's how the field pulls you closer. That's how the dream stops being a place you visit and becomes a presence that walks beside you while awake. Not every part of this will make sense right now. That's the beauty of it. The truth that matters doesn't arrive fully formed. It seeps. It dissolves the edges of who you thought you were. It softens your grip on needing to understand. And in that softening, space appears. And in that space, the next step reveals itself. So don't rush to label this. Don't scroll past it too fast. Let it sit. Let it breathe. Let it stretch inside you. As the night stretches around you, because you didn't just finish a video. You entered a portal, and whether you return or not, it has already begun. The remembering has already started, and it does not stop now.